Welcome to the NuBn Spiritual Warriors Astrology Podcast.
My spiritual essence is Walamu Mudada. And this podcast is provided for those who are seeking wisdom on their journey from darkness into the light.
Kee2 Star Constellations. In the process of learning how to interpret astrology, it's very important that you learn the language of astrology. Here you have planetary symbols that's important to know and understand. Astrological signs. The astro sun symbol, what does that mean? What meaning does that convey? The astro moon symbol, what meaning does that convey? The astro houses, which domain of life does each house cover? The ascendant, relating to your personality, your self-identity. The aspects, how does the energy flow in your chart? The moon knows what is your purpose in this lifetime? What was your purpose in the previous lifetime? And the astro patterns. These are some basic symbols that eventually you will begin to learn and understand. But it takes practice. Also, it's important to know the elements, because the elements can definitely help in not just the aspects, but in a quick analysis of a chart. The red that you see represents the fire signs. You have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. All fire signs trine each other. That means they're about 120 degrees apart. The black are the earth signs: Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Earth signs trine each other, meaning about 120 degrees apart. The teal is the air signs: Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. They all trine each other. The purplish blue is the water signs: Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Again, they all trine each other. By trine, I mean that the energy flows easily from one sign to another. Here's a look at the aspects. Say a conjunction is 0 degrees, and that's the energy configuration. An opposition, 180 degrees. A square, 90 degrees, and that's the energy configuration. A trine, as I mentioned before, 120 degrees, and you see it has an easy and comfortable flow. A sextile, 60 degrees, and that's the energy configuration. Also, in doing an analysis, a basic analysis requires the synthesis of these four components. An understanding of the meaning or attributes in each symbol increases the depth of knowledge. In some cases, a basic analysis can be done with any combination of the two. I also would like to include astro patterns because that's going to be one of our focuses today. Looking at how the astro patterns can help in the determination of interpreting the chart. So you see some of the basic astro patterns: the seesaw, the bowl, the bucket, the splash, the bundle, the locomotive, and the spray. Now, many times the charts might not be identical to these astro patterns, but they may favor a particular astro pattern. We'll talk about that a little later. Matter of fact, here's an astro pattern right here. Now, this pattern favors the seesaw. Notice that the majority of the planets are in the, say, third quadrant, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And some of the planets are in the first quadrant. So it's primarily between the third and the first quadrant. That's where the seesaw action is really going on. Okay, I mentioned the seesaw. The planets are split up into two distinct groups, separated by at least 2 signs or 60 degrees. I want to go further down in the reading. These natives are constantly torn between the duality of their personality. That's key. So you can see a duality of the personality in the seesaw pattern, and they're constantly trying to balance that. So once you see a seesaw pattern, you know that there may be somewhat of an internal conflict going on with the person. Is how do I balance this aspect of my personality with that aspect of my personality? Now, another thing I like to bring to your attention is that the elements that are connected to the planets or the asteroids, you'll see that this chart is heavy with water for planets or asteroids. Well, for heavenly bodies. Earth, there's 4 heavenly bodies there in earth signs. Notice that there's only 1 in the air sign and 1 in the fire sign. So again, it shows you somewhat of a seesaw, as you previously took a look at. Heavy on one end and light on the other. So how do you balance that if your elements in your chart looks this way? So I'm going to begin to ask some questions, and I'd like for you to make a few comments in the, say, chat. First question I would like to ask is, give me a word that represents the water element. Put that in the chat. Take your time. When you think of water, give me a word that represents the water element. Okay, people are beginning to put some things in. Emotions, okay? Emotions. So let's keep that in consideration. Because as we're putting these things down and taking this information in, we're synthesizing the information at the same time, because it's going to give us understanding of the individual chart, sensitivity, emotion, sensitivity. Let's go to earth, a word that represents the earth element. Okay, got receptivity. All right. Any others? Feel free to put something in the chat. Remember, there's no right or wrong. Got receptivity, practicality for earth. Okay, we have work. Somebody is definitely working. All right, so let's take a look at it so far. A word that represents the water element. I'm going to repeat some of the things that was put into the chat. Emotion, sensitivity. Okay. And for the earth, a word for the earth element, receptivity, practicality, work. All right, now we have those words on one side. Now let's go to a word that represents the air element. Put that in the chat. This is one of the ways that you learn how to interpret a chart, is by basically understanding what each element represents. That's why I'm saying, give me one word. That's the same word I had in mind. Intellect, thought, yes, thinking. Okay, it's something that you would think of or would come to mind when you have the air element. So on one side, we have emotions, we have practicality. Okay, I think we have work. All right, so we got a few words on that side. On the other side, we have air, one planet there, or one heavenly body there in the air sign, and we've got intellect, thought. Now, right away, you should start beginning to look at, okay, what picture is this drawing? See, so you should begin to develop a picture in your mind with these elements. All right, let's go to fire. All right, give me a word for fire. Just put one word in the chat. Okay. Anyone else? So when you think of fire, it's action, doing, movement. All of that relates to fire. Notice that the imbalance is also apparent in the elements. When we were talking about the seesaw pattern that this chart represented, this adds to the seesaw pattern and further emphasize a need to balance opposing sides of the personality. So you see, one aspect of the personality is heavy in emotions, or I would say emotional practicality, because practicality was one of the words used for Earth. So I'm showing you how you put, just say some of those key words together and they begin to paint a picture to you. So on one side, you have emotional practicality. On the other side, you have thought or intellect and action. So look like the seesaw, the side of emotional practicality need to be balanced out with the air and fire part. But you don't have too many, say, planets in the air or fire. So it could be a struggle for this individual to move from emotional practicality. Well, what do I mean by emotional practicality? See, in other words, rationalizing your emotional feelings. Where this person did this to me, I'm going to do it right back to them. See, because that seems practical. If they did you this way, you got to do them the same way back. But that's where the air should come in, the thought to intellect, to maybe take that emotional practicality to a more objective level. See, but just off of the information that you put in the chart or that you put in the chat and the elements that we see, we're beginning to form a picture of the personality. Now we're going to take a look at, say, the hemispheres. I think I wanted to talk with you about the hemispheres. And let's see if this next slide relates to him. Yes, okay. See, with the seesaw, we see the third quadrant. The seventh, eighth, and ninth house represents your social thinking about others, other people, their resources or energy. Personal growth and understanding will come from these areas. So that third quadrant is very heavy. So what it's saying is that there will be a lot of learning or lessons coming from that area. Now, the first quadrant, that's representing the first, second, and third house. The first quadrant represents your self-identity formed at an early age of life. Personal growth and understanding will happen as you compare and contrast your identity with your life experiences. See, so there will be a lot of, for this individual, there will be a lot of experiences in the seventh, eighth, and ninth house, that third quadrant, which represents social thinking about other people and their resources or energy. So there will be a lot of lessons that will come from that area of their life that will help them in forming and shaping their self-identity, which covers the first, second, and third house. And this is what I'm talking about as far as the quadrants are concerned. So take a look at that. Each quadrant covers a certain area of life. Just like the houses cover a certain domain of life, The quadrants cover a certain area of life. Okay, I'm going to begin to ask you some questions about this chart right here. And then we'll get to our mystery chart person shortly. But the first question I want to ask you is, do you see any? Now, I'm asking you these questions so you can develop an eye. As you look at the chart, you can develop an eye. Just like a architect. When an architect is riding down the street, there's certain things that catches an architect's eye. If an artist is, riding down, the street, then the artist might be looking at the blending of colors between the sky and the mountain and the earth and all of that. So an artist may be seeing that, while an architect may be looking at structure. See, so they have a sensitivity. Their eye is sensitive to pick up certain things. Well, this is the same thing. You will begin to develop that sensitivity as you look at the chart. So the first question I want to ask you is there any conjunctions that you see? Now, let me mention to you that a conjunction is when a planet is, two planets are just about right next to each other. Right next to each other. They're like neighbors. And they're within, I like to use a 5-degree range. So in the process, now there's two ways you can look at that. You can develop the eye and see that, and also you can go to the chart to the right. And if you go to the chart to the right, you'll see that the sun is in the sign of Cancer. It's 19 degrees Cancer. All right. Now, you have several planets close to the sun. You have Mercury and you have Pluto. So now you're looking, let's say, the green planet or symbol for Mercury. All right. Is that close to 19 degrees Cancer? So the sun is 19 degrees Cancer, just about 20 degrees Cancer. I could say 20 degrees Cancer. And then you take a look at Mercury. Mercury is 25 degrees Cancer. So that's within that 5-degree orb. Okay, so you could say that Mercury is conjunct the sun. Now, you have another planet in there. All right. In the chat, I'd like for you to put in the name of that planet and let me know if that planet is conjunct, say, Mercury. It's close to Mercury. Let's see. Do you think it's conjunct Mercury? Okay, I see someone has something in already. It says Mercury and Pluto. Okay, Mercury and Pluto. Now, Mercury and Pluto, those are the two planets right there near the sun. Are they conjunct? Mercury and Pluto. Put in the chat if you that's either yes or no. Are they conjunct? Okay, I'm getting some response. I'd like to get some more response. It's all right. Okay, let's take a look at it. Mercury is 25 degrees Cancer. We go to the sign for Pluto. Pluto is 28 degrees Cancer. So that's within a 5-degree orb. Yes, they are conjunct. Now I want to ask another question. Okay, I got a couple of yeses here. Yeah. Okay, I want to ask another question. What house is these conjunctions occurring in? What house? Put that in the chat. You have the sun conjuncting Mercury. You have Mercury conjuncting Pluto. What house is this that this is occurring in? We know it's in the sign of Cancer. Okay. Some people are responding to the house. What house is that in? Okay. All right. So some of you are saying, yeah, some of you saying the ninth house. Okay. So now you have a lot of ninth house energy right here. But the way that this ninth house energy is going to be reflected is through water, because they're all in Cancer. If this ninth house energy was being reflected through fire, it would have a different expression. If it was being reflected through air, it would be a different expression. If it was being reflected through earth, it would be a different reflection. See, so the element sort of gives a flavor to the house. Okay. All right. The next question I'm going to ask is there a trine? Do you see a trine anywhere? So you're looking at the chart. Now, there's several ways to look at it. Now, I'll do a review. You know, water trines water. So there's we got 3 planets in Cancer. Okay. So what are the, and that's a water sign. What are the other water signs? Put that in the chart. What are the other water signs? So we know Cancer is a water sign. What else is a water sign? See, these are some basic questions that you need to have an understanding of to do a good chart analysis. So we know Cancer is a water sign. There's 2 other water signs. What are they? Okay, I'm getting some response in the chat. I'll wait for a few more. What are the other water signs? That's the question. We have Cancer. What are other water signs? Okay, all right. So here are some of the other water signs as you putting them in the chat, and I just was waiting for some more people to come in. All right, to put that in the chat. So we have Cancer, we have Scorpio, and we have Pisces. Now, if we look at Pisces, we don't have any planets necessarily in Pisces. So let's go over to Scorpio. All right. Now, we do have a planet in Scorpio, and that's Mars. That planet is Mars. So if we look at the chart, we'll see that Mars is 21 degrees Scorpio. Here's the question. What planet or planets, possibly, is trine Mars? Now, we know that trines are of the same element. So we have Cancer and we have Scorpio. We have planets in Cancer, we have planets in Scorpio. Now, we want to take a look at the degrees. And we're looking at a 5-degree range. We know that Mars is 21 degrees Scorpio. We want to go to Cancer and see what planets are close to 21 degrees. And if we have a planet in Cancer that's close to 21 degrees, or planets that are close to 21 degrees, we have a trine, because water trines water. And all we're looking for now is the degrees. All right, so we have Mars here. Let's see. Give me a planet that may be trining Mars. If you see a planet that's trining Mars. Mars is 21 degrees Scorpio. That means, that means Mars is in a water sign. Now you have to go to another water sign like Cancer, where there's planets. And do you see anything trining Mars? Okay, I'm getting some response here. Feel free to add to the chat. When we looked at Pisces, we didn't see any planets in Pisces. So we know right away there's no trines there because there's no planets there. But we see Mars is in Scorpio, and this at 21 degrees, and that's a water sign. So we go to our other water sign, which is Cancer, and yes, there's planets there. So are any of those planets close to 21 degrees within a 5-degree range? If they are, then you will experience a trine. Okay, let's see what I have in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna respond to this one. Okay, Mars is 21, and you can look at that the degree chart to your right if you're not sure. Always, look at the degree chart to your right, because sometimes things look closer on the chart than what they actually are. So look at that degree sign to the right. Okay, I'm getting some responses. All right, here we go. So Mars is 21 degrees Scorpio. Now I'm going to another water sign, which is Cancer. Scorpio is a water sign. I'm going to another water sign because I'm talking about a trine. I see that the sun is 19 degrees or 20 degrees, very close to 20 degrees. So that's within range. So the sun is trining Mars. Okay. I'm looking at Mercury, because Mercury is also in the water sign. So Mars is 21 degrees Scorpio. Mercury is 25 degrees Cancer. Both of them are water signs, and they're within the range of each other. So the sun and Mercury are trining. The sun and Mercury are trining Mars. Now, there's another planet there, which is Pluto. I'm looking at Pluto. Now, Pluto is 28 degrees. Mars is 21 degrees. So that's outside a 5-degree 5-degree range. But some people would use that. I try to stay within 5 degrees to be a little more exact. Okay, so we do have something trining. All right. Now, we'll probably come back later and talk about that. Well, I can mention a few things about it right now. Mars is in a water sign. Now, Mars is a fiery planet, but it's in a water sign. So it doesn't get its best expression in a water sign. Mars is also in the first house. So the self-identity of this individual, because that's what the first house deals with, the self-identity of this individual is heavily influenced by water. You have the sun, you have Mercury and Pluto in a water sign, but particularly the sun and Mercury in a water sign. And they're trying Mars, which is in a water sign as well. See, so then the first house represents your self-identity. All right. The ninth house deals with the higher mind or your thinking. So the emotions are heavily influencing the thinking and the individual self-identity. Okay. All right. Now, last question about that before we move on. We're looking for an opposition. Our opposition is 180 degrees, where one planet is on one side of the chart and another planet is on the other side of the chart. They are completely opposite from each other. Do you see planets that are in opposition, where one planet is on the other side of the chart and the other planet is completely opposite of it? Once you see that, then take a look at the degrees. So put in the chat any planets that are part of an opposition. You can put both of them in, or you can just put one in, whatever you so choose. So one person is saying the sun is part of an opposition. So they're saying the sun is in one part of the chart and directly opposite of the sun is another planet. If you agree with that, then you can indicate agree or tell me what planet that is to help the person out. Because they're saying, well, the sun is in the opposition to another planet. Do you agree? Yes, some people saying they agree. Can anybody tell me what planet is that? That's on the opposite end from where the sun is. So you can either put in what planet that is, or do you agree? I'll wait for one other person or someone else to add something to the chat. Okay, there's an agreement. They say yes. All right, now let's take a closer look. We know that the sun is in Cancer and it's, let's say, 20 degrees in Cancer. Now, what is the opposite sign of Cancer? See, that's where you have to begin to study and know the opposite sign, just like The opposite of Sagittarius is Gemini. See, the opposite of Scorpio is Taurus. See, so there's some other things that you want to incorporate in your study. All right, so that planet, let's see, did anybody put in, tell me what planet that was? Okay, some people don't necessarily agree. Okay, that's all right, that's good. All right, now, the planet that seems to be opposite from the sun is Jupiter. It's red like the sun. All right, now let's see if Jupiter is within range, because the sun is, let's say, 20 degrees Cancer. Let's see what Jupiter is. Jupiter is 22 degrees Capricorn. That's within range, and you do have an opposition. So the sun and Jupiter are in opposition. See, so you and looking at the elements, you say you can see that that heavy element of water in the ninth house is opposite Jupiter. Now let's see if it's opposite Mercury as well. Yes, it's opposite Mercury as well. Let's see if it's opposite. Mercury is 25 degrees Cancer. Jupiter is 22 degrees Capricorn. And we have Pluto, which is 28 degrees Cancer. And Jupiter is 22 degrees. Okay, so that's very close to that 5-degree range that I like to stay within. So then you can basically say that you have 3 planets in the ninth house in the water sign that's opposite Jupiter in the third house. Okay, and somebody already mentioned that. All right, now we're going to go a little further in our analysis. Now, one of the things that we could do in our analysis is to analyze what is the energy of these oppositions? What is the energy of this trine? What is the energy of this conjunction? Okay, we can do that a little later. I'm not going to necessarily do it right now, but you've got enough information to where you can begin to determine whose chart this is, or not so much whose chart it is, but what is the energy of this chart. You already have gleaned enough information to determine the energy of the chart. And we're going to get to that in just 1 minute. Okay, so we did this. Planets, we already went over that. Oh, I want to go into the 10th house. Yes, I want to go to the 10th house for a minute because that's very important. Okay, what planet is in the 10th house? Now, the reason I'm saying the 10th house, because usually the 10th house is where you can get a clue on the individual's leadership style. Because the 10th house basically deals with leadership, authority, and things of that nature. Okay, so what planet is in the 10th house? Put that in the chat. Okay, some people own it already. That's very important because I'm going to give you some information, some clues, some astrological clues and other clues about this individual. All right, and their leadership style is very important. And when you see what planet is in there, you can, better ascertain. All right, quite a few people in the chat are saying Neptune, which is on target. Neptune. Okay, I'll share some information about Neptune. because Neptune is, matter of fact, I think the next slide might say something about it. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Here's some clues that you've already gathered. Okay, now let's keep this in consideration because next we're going to come up with, say, trying to identify the energy. Okay, first, the astrological clues. There's a need to balance your self-identity with your public expression. Now, I'm giving you clues about our mystery chart. Emotional reason can offset your thinking and your actions. Strongest planets and aspects are connected to emotions. Public leadership qualities are apparent, but it can be unclear. That's Neptune. Can be unclear or confusing. That's Neptune in the 10th house. His interaction with others dominate his public life. All right, now I'll give you some other clues. He is a well-known contemporary Black celebrity. By profession, he is a comedian, entertainer, and an actor. He has won several television awards and acting awards. He is also known for taking certain social positions or causes that relate to African Americans. Okay, now we're going to let that resonate for a moment. I want to go back and let you take a look at that right there. Now I want you to just the first name that come to your mind, that's the one that I want you to put in the chat. But first of all, just let it resonate for me.
Assume the position. It may be with your feet flat on the floor and your spine erect. It may be in a yoga position. Whatever position you assume, your spine is erect. Now gently close your eyes, for you are going on an inner journey. And this inner journey begins with the breath. So as you inhale, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body, to the top of your head. And on exhalation, it showers out the top of your head like a fountain, returning to the earth. Again, on inhalation, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body to the top of your head. And on exhalation, this energy showers out the top of your head like a fountain.
All right. I'd like for you to put that name in the chat before I let you know who our mystery chart, person is. Okay, so start putting some names in the chat. And the main thing we're focusing on is energy. So it's not necessarily that you get the name right, but you're reading energy. Okay? All right. I got one person responding. Let me get a couple others names in here. What happened one time before is that an individual gave me a name, and it wasn't necessarily the name of the mystery person, but it was a name that reflected the same energy. So then when I studied that other person, the name of the person that was put in the chat, I could see their energies are very similar. All right, so come on, give me some names, give me some homework to do. Because even if it's not the exact energy, you might see something. Like one person had similar energy as another because they had a lot of planets in Aries. Okay. Some of you are beginning to put some names in there. Waiting for a few more. Whatever name came to your mind. Okay, while I'm waiting for a few more in here, I'm going to read this chart summary again. There's a need to balance your self-identity with your public expression. Emotional reason can offset your thinking and your actions. Strongest planets and aspects are connected to emotions. Public leadership qualities are apparent, but it can be unclear or confusing. His interaction with others dominate his public life. Other clues. He is a well-known contemporary Black celebrity. By profession, he is a comedian, entertainer, and an actor. He has won several television awards and acting awards. He is also known for taking certain social position or causes that relate to African Americans. Okay? And our mystery chart belongs to Bill Cosby. And some of you had that see, some of you had it. You recognize the energy. Kee2 star constellations. Kee2 star constellations is a family affair. As a family or an individual, learn the ancient science of astronomy, astrology, numerology, and sacred geometry. The lessons are basic and engaging for all ages. They are insightful and empowering. Kee2 star constellations.